Today I'm on a dry mountaintop looking for dry juniper branches to make rabbit sticks from. The rabbit stick is the North American term for a hunting boomerang. It's a boomerang that's meant to be thrown sideways instead of vertically, and it doesn't return. It instead glides very far distances, goes much further than you could throw a stick throwing it sideways. Hunting boomerangs of some sort were used all over the world by almost every culture. They're not strictly an Australian invention, although the Australian Aboriginals have been using them for many thousands of years. Some of the oldest archaeological finds of hunting boomerangs date back to 60,000 years or more. Here in North America, the hunting boomerangs are referred to as rabbit sticks, and that helps differentiate them based on which cultures or at least which continent it was used on. While in North America they were called rabbit sticks, in Australia they were often called kylies. There were a couple different names for them. Since I'm in North America, using North American native woods, carving using typically Native American designs, I call them rabbit sticks. In general, you want dense woods to carve rabbit sticks from. That's because they have to be carved thin and they need to be able to take impact. So they have to be tough, they have to hit hard. That makes woods like pine and fir really poor choices for rabbit sticks. But juniper is a fair bit denser than those. It's not the best wood for rabbit sticks, but it does the job pretty well and it's durable. In the Southwest, rabbit sticks were often carved from oak or mesquite. Other woods like mountain mahogany, black walnut, and Osage orange would be really great for rabbit sticks as well because they are dense and tough. I know there's examples of rabbit sticks from the Hopi tribe carved from oak. While there is oak up here, there's a lot more standing dead juniper, and I'd prefer to carve it from a seasoned piece of wood. That way I don't need to wait for it to dry. You want branches that come out from the main trunk of the tree at an elbow. This rabbit stick follows the shape of the branch it came from. Now if you have a saw with you, you can usually get 2 rabbit sticks per elbow. Since I just have a tomahawk and a machete with me, I just get 1 per elbow, and that's okay because there's plenty of wood to make them from. I really like rabbit sticks as a quick hunting survival weapon because I can make them so quickly. In the same time it takes to carve out a bow and a couple of arrows, I can carve out a dozen rabbit sticks. And with a bit of practice, you can have the same range and accuracy as a bow and arrow. Accuracy comes from the person, not the weapon. Rabbit sticks can be so quickly made because they follow the same principles of an airfoil, like an airplane wing, and it doesn't require precision carving to achieve that. What works best for me is carving the bottom flat as I can make it, and then making the top just slightly domed. With lighter, less dense woods, I'll make it a little thicker, closer to a 1/2 inch. Or if I want a shorter range rabbit stick, I'll make it a little bit thicker and bevel the underside of it too, because that helps it generate just a little bit more lift. Whenever I carve them, I like challenging myself and trying to get one that'll fly as straight and as far as possible. So for that, I carve them thin, make the top slightly domed, make the bottom as flat as I can. Now, in case you're wondering, yes, I have actually hunted with these. I've taken game and made meals using rabbit sticks. This is a fairly small rabbit stick and not a great example of what to make. Because of its size, it's really only big enough to hunt squirrels and maybe small rabbits. It can also take small birds like quail. Larger ones are great for birds like turkeys and grouse, geese, larger animals like marmots and coons. So I was mostly just having fun when I made this one. Wanted to see if I can make a small, long-distance rabbit stick. Typically when I make them, I aim for something about 2 feet or more long. The nice thing is that gives you a really wide path of impact. Unlike a bow and arrow where your precision has to be within this much tolerance to be able to hit your target exactly where you want it, which is really hard with small animals like squirrels. With the rabbit stick, your path of impact is as broad as the weapon itself. So with a little practice to start hitting the general area you're going for, you can quickly become just accurate enough to take rabbits and squirrels at decent ranges. Now some people are absolute pros with this and they can hit a target the size of a soda can at 80 yards. I'm not there yet, but I want to be. So that's why I go out, make them, and practice. It's mostly for fun, but it also builds discipline and helps build creativity and problem-solving ability, and those in turn are some of your best survival skills to have. Here at the base of this Rocky Mountain juniper, there's a nice curved branch that's been dead a long time. This one is cracked a bit. I don't know if it'll be able to make a rabbit stick, but the curvature here is awesome. That's exactly what you're looking for. I'll go ahead and cut it and see if we can carve down to the center of it and get down below all those cracks. The underside feels fairly uncracked, so I think we'll be able to get one out of this. I love the look of this red juniper wood, and it smells amazing too. It's really fragrant wood. It's got that blood red color to it. One of my favorite woods to carve for that reason. And that'll be great for a rabbit stick. Let's get a few more. Here's a really great elbow too, but this is really thick wood and all I have is a tomahawk with me. If you have a saw, you can go after pieces like this, split them down the middle and get multiple weapons out of them. And that's nice because they're a little extra wide, but I'm looking for smaller elbows than this just because of the tools I have to work with. Here's a dead piece of oak. This has a nice bend in it, so I'm gonna harvest that too. Oak is one of my favorite woods to work and carve. I love the look of the grain. Love the look of the heartwood too. In fact, I have an oak bow that I'm currently working on. I use a tomahawk as my primary carving tool here because I can fell branches with it and also carve them down. Historically, tomahawks were meant to be a jack-of-all-trades axe. These days, they're really only known for throwing, but that's not the sole purpose they were designed for. I prefer my other tomahawk, which you may have seen in other videos, as it does a much better job carving. But this one still does the job just fine and allows me to just carry one tool that can do multiple jobs, rather than carrying multiple specialized tools. I generally start off the rabbit stick by carving the belly of it flat, and I remove material up to the midpoint of the branch. That ensures that the rabbit stick will be as wide as possible. In this instance, the cracks actually did extend through the branch, and I wasn't able to end up using that one. So I switched to a different branch, and the carving went much better. Look at that grain. Mixed purple and white wood. A lot of my carving technique consists of very coarse chops in the wood going up the length, and then on the way back down, I change the angle of the axe to split out all those chops. This lets me carve and remove material quickly without the axe diving into the grain and removing more material than I wanted. My other tomahawk carves much better because the face of the blade extends further. It's a tomahawk I forged specifically to be better at carving, and it's a more historical design. This one works, but because the edge is closer to the eye gets in the way and deflects it off the wood sometimes. Now to carve it thin. Juniper is really fun to carve because of this beautiful red grain it has. But the one downside to it is the grain is often twisted. So sometimes when you're carving it, the axe will try to shear off pieces as it follows some grain that veers off the edge of the rabbit stick. When that's the case, you have to flip the rabbit stick over and carve from the other side. That way it's carving more against the grain and not with it. Getting the rabbit stick thin enough is the biggest task. I generally aim for between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch thick. Many of my rabbit sticks end up being more like 1/2 inch thick. They fly better if they're a little bit thinner. I can carve it mostly thin enough very quickly, but removing the last bit of material down to the final thickness that I want takes a long time. Once I have it nearly as thin as I want, I go through with a machete, which carves a fair bit finer than the axe does, and I remove the axe marks on the belly. This results in a smoother surface and gives it a little bit less resistance in flight. Now you can also refine rabbit sticks like this using sandpaper or power sanders to remove all the tool marks altogether, but they'll fly just fine with those carving marks still there. Here I'm using my bushcraft knife to carve the airfoil. I'm just making a slightly rounded top to the piece. The bevels are fairly steep, steeper than 45 degrees, so you don't need to carve a knife edge into the rabbit stick. This knife is my own SageSmokeSurvival Bushcraft Knife. It's available on my website, and I have the link to that in the video description. It's also pinned in the comments. This knife is handmade by a professional bladesmith. It arrives razor sharp. It's the perfect size and shape for wood carving and skinning animals and other outdoor tasks you would need it for. The shape of the ends doesn't matter all that much. I generally just go for a bit of a rounded point. I take a lot of time and care to get the bevels even all around the rabbit stick. This one's ending up a little shorter than I would like, but that's okay. Shorter rabbit sticks tend to fly faster through the air, and that helps make up for a little bit of lost mass. Just dulling the edges here. Here's our finished rabbit stick. The real beauty of it is it's so rough carved and it still flies. I love the look of that juniper. We'll do some test throws now. I ended up having to shorten it quite a bit because the tail end of it was actually throwing it off and causing it to fumble in flight. So I've shortened it down a bit. Now it flies really well. Since these can be made so quickly with just a couple of tools, it's a really fun thing to do when you're out in the woods, even if you don't have dense woods like oak around or juniper, which isn't really that dense. But even making them out of willow can be a lot of fun. And willow rabbit sticks were certainly used historically to take small game. Here's one of my best flying juniper rabbit sticks. It's a bit small, but it consistently flies over 60 yards. I'm trying to tune it in so it stays level in flight a little bit better. It tends to veer off to the right at the end of its flight. You can see it's almost a half circle shape. Anyway, those are the basics of how I build rabbit sticks. There's many different ways to do it, and you can use different tools or even less tools than I use. But because this weapon is quick to make with minimal materials and tools, with a bit of practice you can start to depend on your throwing ability to procure food for yourself in the wilderness. And I find that an incredibly valuable skill. So I hope you'll get out and try making some for yourself. Start learning some of these carving skills as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.